Okay, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for making the time to join me this evening. My name is Kevin Julian. I'm the technical director of BFC in the grassroots division. And what I'm going to go over tonight is the U8 to U10s, a bit of a parents' meeting, and there'll be an opportunity to ask questions at the end. It's pretty informal, but of course, again, as we get along, hopefully I'll answer some questions you might have. And if I don't, by all means, at the very end, we'll address them. Okay. Right. So just there's a small agenda there. Again, I just firstly want to acknowledge that Burnaby is located on the ancestral and unceded homeless lands of the Hobrian and Squamish speaking peoples. And then from there, we'll do some brief introductions, review the club philosophy, talk about volunteer coaching at Burnaby FC, review the practices for the U8 to U10s, the game formats at the U8-U10s. I'll talk about the kickoff the season jamboree. And then, of course, plenty of time at the end to ask some questions. The meeting I had earlier ran for about half an hour, 45 minutes. So kind of expecting something similar with this group here. Okay, so again, if I get distracted, just keep on letting people into the room that just are joining us now. Okay. Just a couple of brief introductions. So yeah, as I said, my name's Kevin Julian. I am the technical director of Burnaby FC in the grassroots. So we're really focused on the U6 to U10s, and then from the U11 to U18s, I'll work with the Division 2s and 3s predominantly, and then we've got some other staff that not on the call that work with the high performance once you get into those older age groups. I've been fortunate enough to be working in Burnaby with Cliff Avenue United FC for over 13 years now. I've been the technical director there for a while. It's just an absolute pleasure and a privilege to know a lot of the soccer community through that club. I arrived in BC to study a master's in kinesiology focused on motor learning out of UBC. And again, I was very fortunate to connect with Tony Waiters, the late great legend himself, who got me involved at the club and haven't left. And so yeah, and prior to that, had a brief professional playing career, mostly in Ireland and in England. Had an undergrad scholarship, had a scholarship in the US for my undergrad, focused on sports management and strength and conditioning. But again, been around the game my whole life, and just a real student of the game. Never stop learning. Stay up to date with my national licenses, so I can offer the best version of myself to the players and the coaches at the club. And again, we've got some great staff at the club that will be also working with the U6 to U10s boys and girls. Neither of them are on the court at the moment because, as you'd expect, they're on the field working with the coaches and players. Kim, again, like wealth of knowledge. She's a former technical director herself. She's been heads of grassroots development. She's been director of goalkeeper development. She was a goalkeeper herself at a good level of the University of Fraser Valley. She's been an assistant coach in BC provincial programs. She's worked with the Whitecaps. She's coached at post-secondary institutes. And again, she's a nationally certified children's license holder, which again really pertains to this age range that we're talking about tonight, the U8 to U10s. But perhaps like one of the biggest feathers in the cap is she specializes in character development and is a certified positive psychology practitioner. Okay, so like again, like really, it's a real benefit to have someone of Kim's prestige at the club. And same said for Nico, who Nico is is originally from Chile, and he has over 20 years of coaching experience in various roles, some of which were like director of a sports academy, sports consultant, a coach educator. He's got some high profile licenses that through Chile, through the Canadian Soccer Association, be it the children's license and the youth license, and he's been at the club for a number of years now. And again, we're very, very fortunate to have Kim and Nico. That they're going to be very hands-on with the U8s to U10s. Kim working with the girls and Nico with the boys. But of course, and myself included, we'll go where we can provide the most support. But again, there's just a couple of introductions on those two coaches there. Just a little quick review of the Burnaby FC club philosophy, if you hadn't had a chance to see it. Our purpose, mission, and vision, as well as our values. And again, as you'll know, that Brenner BFC is the coming together of 5 different clubs, and so we wanted to make sure that we're all in line going forward. And what we want to do is we've been created essentially to build leaders in our community through sport. And this organization, this Brenner BFC, we're going to be bringing together a very comprehensive technical and operating infrastructure. And what we want to do is just have the most superior experience for all of our membership, be it players, parents, coaches, and anyone that's connected with the club. Okay, we want to build leaders and community through the sport. Okay, we want the sense of belonging. This is a big vision here. I think everyone just should realize that we really are striving to be one of the best clubs in the country, not just in the Lower Mainland, not just in British Columbia, but we're pulling out no stops to be one of the best clubs in the country, and we've got some great people at the club to make sure that this will happen. And again, what our mission really is at the club is just to make sure that all the kids have an exceptional experience while at the club. Like the players, the parents, like you guys, we want you guys to make sure you have a good experience when you're involved with Brenner BFC. Okay, and how this will go about is like making sure we've got the same values, and a big one certainly with these U8s to U10s, that a birth year, and we're all one team. All right, like that can't be overemphasized, in the sense that if team one's playing team two, really for all intents and purposes we're the same team, but we're just we're working together for the better developments for all the kids. So if we've got to mix teams up a bit, or if I've got no subs and you've got 4 subs, like we'll just have 2 players come over so that we can have an equal and competitive match and a meaningful game. Really important to understand, like we approach the kids as people first and athletes second. And so it's the person that matters, and we want to make sure that we go that extra bit to make sure that we get to know kids, not just on a first name basis, but also like get to know them as like what the personality likes and how they got the different learning styles. And so like we're not fully invested in treating kids very, very high regard. They're not just a player. They're more than that. They're a person. And how we Brenner BFC intends to continue to create a legacy beyond the pitch is like some of the initiatives of going into schools and seeing how we can help promote the sport, regardless of whether they play for Brenner BFC, but just there's a lot of kids in the city that they don't have access to organized sports the way a lot of families do. So bringing the sport to them and hopefully getting them into the system in another route. And then we always wanted to make sure that we whatever we said we're going to do, we're going to do it. Okay, so I'm not just saying that we want to go into schools and help kids, but the fact of the matter is that we really do go into schools and try to promote the game and try to give those opportunities to kids that might not otherwise have them. Okay, so this is a big slide here in the sense that I know this is a parents' meeting, but I can't overemphasize the fact that our parents, volunteer coaches, they're an integral part of the club, if not like the most important part of the club, second to the players, because without the volunteer parents, everyone, like there are no teams to play on. There is no club. Okay, so I guess you'll if you haven't already received an email, like you'll be receiving more information of how you can get involved to help your child's experience at the club, by being a volunteer coach. Okay, and at the club we provide a lot of support to our volunteers so that they have a good experience and they really enjoy doing it. Okay, so like some of the things I've listed here is like we will, even if you didn't know much about the game, like we will educate you on how to coach kids age specific. All right, so we've got like the courses are 2 parts. There's a part 1's an online course, so you can do that at your leisure. It takes 2 hours, but you don't have to do it in one sitting. And that information, even providing that course, will be invaluable information on how to work with kids. And then the on-field portion of the course, again, that's just going to the next level of really demonstrating and showing you how to run a practice. And gone are the days where volunteer coaches here's 12 kids, and then they're left alone. Like the club is here to support the volunteer coaches. We provide the age appropriate lesson plans so that a coach doesn't have to read up on books or go on the internet and spend any of the additional time that is necessary. We hand over curriculum that gives you like a week by week outline of what to do. So so coaches are already fully prepared on what to deliver to the players. If any coach required additional support, all they've got to do is connect with me, and I'll make sure that like a staff coach or myself come to your session to help you and to support you. Be whatever the case, if it was managing the group or getting to the next level, or say you're doing really well in one aspect of the game, but you can't get to the next level. Like the staff coaches are here to help with that support. If if for whatever reason, if all 2 or 3 volunteer coaches were unable to attend a particular night due to family or professional conflicts, reach out to the club and we'll make sure that group of players have a staff coach to run that session, because what we don't want to happen is kids to miss something that they're going to be looking forward to all week, right? Again, something that happens at Burnaby FC is that the club provides all the equipment. Volunteer coaches don't have to go spend their own money on cones, on pennies, on balls or anything like that, on first aid kits. The club gives the volunteers a coaching bag, which take care of everything. Okay, and with a sense of pride, we're happy to give out to our volunteer coaches a coach's tracksuit top. That shows the club logo, as well as a training top that has a club logo on it, because we want to have a sense of pride in when we're coaching, and you'll look like a coach. You'll look like a coach, and you'll be easily identified as someone that that volunteers their time for the benefit of the community, which I think is pretty special. So the U8 to U10 team practices, if you weren't aware, that they're always going to be they're all outdoors, and they're always going to be on gravel. Okay, for your team practices. And again, as I mentioned previously, that volunteer coaches, you're going to get like a season-long curriculum. Like you don't have to worry about designing your own practices. We've got it all laid out for you with how to run the practice. And probably the biggest question that's probably going to come up is, when will I know when my practice and where is my practice? And we're looking to confirm that very shortly. We're in contact with the city, so we should be getting those contracts out imminently. And again, part of the reason why we want people to register and coaches to be confirmed is so that we can confirm with the coaches of, hey, what is your practice time that and location that you're looking for. Okay. We do hope we're able to, and it is our intention to make sure that teams have players that are geographically close by, so that you're close to your home. You don't have to travel across the city to get to a practice. We're hoping that you can practice in your own backyard, so to speak, and that you're with friends from school or for friends in the neighborhood for carpool purposes. Those are the arrangements that with Burnaby BFC that we're looking to accommodate. We don't have an exact time and location for your practices just yet, but it will be coming out very shortly. For those of you that are familiar with the app, Team Snap is a way that parents can communicate very quickly and easily with the coaches, and it's very important that that parents use this tool, because you can imagine, like, as a volunteer coach or even a professional coach, like, I'm expecting 12 kids at practice. Here's my lesson. I've just spent my time in putting together planning in advance of here it is. This is how it's going to work. And then all of a sudden, 3 or 4 kids don't show up, and it's not going to flow the way I'd intended. It's a miss for the kids that did come, and it makes it for a harder session to run for a volunteer coach or a professional coach. Again, it's an app. It takes 2 seconds to confirm your availability. So again, parents just really emphasize out of respect as well of a volunteer coach's or any coach's time, that you let them know whether or not you're going to be attending. So this will be probably what a lot of people will be interested to know of what do the games look like at U8 and U9 at Burnaby BFC. Okay, and so we're a national licensed club. Like we abide by the highest standards by BC Soccer and the Canadian Soccer Association, and to make sure that things are going smoothly, we'll have a Burnaby BFC staff coach on location to make sure these games are going smoothly. Game length, it's 20-minute halves. few minutes for halftime to break up the halves. It's 5v5 with a goalkeeper. Okay, so that's it's a goalkeeper, and then there's 4 players that are playing out. Okay, it's to restart the game when the ball goes out the sidelines. It's a pass or a dribble in. Okay, so we don't do throw-ins in these age groups anymore. And the reason being is because I'm sure that someone did a lot of research and the amount of time it takes to get the game restarted by doing throw-ins in these age groups, because they're usually incorrect. The referee's got to stop it to say, hey, keep both feet on the ground and make sure the ball's all the way behind your head. And so what we want we want the ball in play, rolling as much as possible. And what the Canadian Soccer Association has recommended, it's either a passing or a dribbling. Kids should be getting fair playing time. Okay, so if it doesn't matter if you're the best kid on the field or one of the ones that's just getting it, or you're new to the game and you're just learning. That if you're attending practices, then you should be getting the same amount of playing time as someone else, regardless of the ability. But again, the way that we'll discuss in a minute about the festival format, we do want to get away from having too many kids not play, like substitutes. We're trying to get away from too many substitutes. Like, we'll have a couple. It's always nice for kids to have a break and catch their breath. But typically we won't have full line changes where kids are essentially only playing half the time. We really want kids to be playing as much as they possibly can on the weekend. And then as far as the U8s and U9s go, there's goalkeeper gets the ball, there's a retreat line, and they have to go retreat line back to the halfway line. And what this does is it encourages our kids to learn how to play up from the back, and there's a little bit less pressure on them. And like, essentially, it doesn't mean the goalkeeper makes a save or the from a goal kick, and it's almost a goal in itself, because kids can all push up because the goalkeeper can't distribute the ball too far, right? So it is a rule in place for the benefit of the long-term player development. And the U10s are again similar than the U8-U9s. The only difference really is the fact that the games are longer. We have a staff coach on location. We have more players on the field. Okay, so there's a goalkeeper and 6 players. It's still a pass in or a dribble in. Again, going back to that fair playing time, that it's not based on ability. The strongest kids don't get more playing time than the weakest kids. It's not how it works. The retreat lines are just 1/3. The fields are bigger, and that is part of the reason for it being 1/3. And then again, just like the U8s and U9s, it's a festival format with excelling and emerging fields, which I will discuss right now. Okay, so what a festival format is essentially means there's no real set teams. So we've got two fields side by side each other on a match day. Okay, so if I was team 1 and I'm playing against team 2, I would put my stronger players on one field and my weaker players on the other field. And of course, my opponent, my colleague, would do the same. And what the benefit of this happening is that players are playing against kids that are of similar ability. Okay, versus again, maybe the biggest, strongest, fastest kid in the age group is coming up against a kid that has never played soccer before, and it's the first time trying it, and they're still just trying to get the bearings, because neither kid benefits. Okay, the player that's really strong, and the kids that's get introduced to the game. And I cannot emphasize enough that for the majority of the players, guys, they're going to be at both fields throughout the course of the season. Okay, and then there's so many factors that determine that. Okay, because like kids development is not linear. Okay, it's all over the place. It's like sometimes you got good days, sometimes you got bad days. Like there's only a few kids that really will probably spend if they're brand new to the sport at U10 and they're just getting into their first game, the first organized sport. There's probably a good reason they'll only ever be on that emerging field where they're still trying to learn. And the same thing with maybe the top, 5% of an age group. They're probably going to stay on that excelling field. But for the rest of the age group, everyone, they're going to bounce back and forth. It might be bouncing back and forth on that particular day. It might be the following week. It might be a month later. Okay, but that just purely depends how that player is developing over the course of the season. Okay, and again, staff coaches are on location to make sure that games are close and competitive. And again, no one benefits from blowouts. Certainly not the players' development, and certainly not the players' enjoyment. Okay, so that's something that this format really does help with keeping games close, competitive, and meaningful. Touch briefly on the extra development at BFC, which is called the Development Center. Okay, and again, our club is meeting the highest standards across the country. And so our nationally licensed player development and skills, center, formerly known as academy. That's a term that's used a lot. And just, I put that in there just in case anyone's more familiar with the term academy, but we're not going to call it that. And it's a place for every player to improve their soccer skills if they want to get to a higher level. Okay, so it is if a player is motivated to come work with the professional coaches, regardless of if they're one of the best kids in the age group or if they're one of the weakest kids in the age group that's just starting, but they have a desire to get better. Everyone is welcome to this development center. And what happens is that we divide the group up, similar to the emerging and excelling fields, is that we place like ability players in groups to give them the most out of it. Okay, so how this is meeting the high standards of across the country is that the coaches that are working at these sessions are nationally certified. Okay, like the courses that myself, the Kim, and Nico, and others have to take, they're like year-long courses that we've got to go through. So it's no small undertaking to make sure that we are using the most up-to-date, scientifically backed training methods to help players within this age range. And again, they're always following the CSA and the BC Soccer guidelines and recommendations for the long-term player development. Okay. And again, there's going to be more details about this program coming out shortly. And the details being time, location, cost, all that will be coming out shortly, because it is an additional fee to what your base registration is. But one thing that which I can say is, like, if your team practices on a Tuesday, your age group development center will not be on a Tuesday. So there'll be no conflict. So you don't have to pick or choose if you want to go to an extra program or your team practice. The intention is that you'll be able to go to both. One other thing that I would like to mention about the development center is that there is an opportunity that there will be groups of players from the development center that will play against other clubs' development centers. So whereas on the weekend, for example, when it's going to be, like Team 1 versus Team 2 for U9s, that's all Burnley BFC in-house. Whereas in a few months' time in development center, we will be working with players looking to play, the North Vancouvers, the Clifton Metro Fords, in different age groups, to give those players a bit of a different experience. So just wanted to mention that. An important event is coming up, and it's the kickoff the season jamboree, and essentially what this is, just a big soccer party for the U6 to U10s, and you really get to see the size of the club and all the great work that the volunteers do to put into the time and effort to provide a place for players to play. And it's always the Saturday after the Labor Day long weekend. And it's a place where the parents and players get to meet their coaches, often for the first time. And the volunteer coaches will hand out the uniforms, the shirts, the socks, the shorts, and then they'll essentially have like an inter-squad session right there for the day. But there's so much more going on at the park than just meeting a coach and playing a game for an hour. There's pizza for lunch on location. There's merchandise that you can purchase. There's face painting. There's bouncy houses. It is a family fun event. And again, this year it's falling on September 9th. And all the players will be notified of what their time slot is as we get closer to the date. But typically it runs from like 11 till 3, for example, and every age group will get a particular time slot. Yeah, something to look forward to, and that's everybody, U6 to U10, boys and girls, on September 9th. It's a real great event. Yeah, so anyway, just getting into the end of the presentation here before we open up for questions, is that again, if you haven't registered yet for Burnaby FC, you absolutely should do as soon as possible, because one, the early bird discount is coming up quick, right? Like the price will increase next month. But besides that, it does help with our plannings and making sure that we can accommodate any requests you might have, make sure that your practice time and location is close to your house. And again, there is a lot of moving parts when you're working with age groups that have got hundreds of kids in them, and to make sure that we've got enough parent volunteers to accommodate every kid that wants to play soccer. And if you do have any additional questions, you can reach out to info@burnabfc.com, or of course you can reach out to me directly as well. And with that, I'll just open up to any questions that you might have. So again, like if you're thinking it, someone else is thinking it. Here we go. I'm just gonna go into the chat here. Love that. Here we go. Yes, I'll be able to. Yes, I'll be able to send out the recording. I'll be sending out to all of them. Who will be coaching development centers? The coaches are the ones that are nationally certified. So there's myself, there's Nico, there's Kim, there's other high performance coaches that have done the national certifications that will be working in the development centers. For a list of all the staff coaches, you can go to the website and see the bios of those coaches. But yeah, because it's standard based, we have to have coaches that are meeting those requirements to be working in the development center. Question is, players which attend development would have an opportunity to play against other teams outside of BFC. Yeah, that is correct. Like between the U8s and U10s, as I mentioned previously, we will take groups of players, again, varying abilities, want to give everyone equal opportunity. But what our attention would be like, okay, if we're going to take just pick a number, top 10 kids at U10, and we're going to make arrangements to go play North Vancouver on this particular date. And then, if we go there, then the following fixture we could probably host, and it might be a different set of kids. It could be the same group of kids. But what we will be looking to do is those players that are within that U8 to U10 development center, the ones that are working with the staff coaches, it would be a staff coach that would be running those games as well. So hope that is clear. If they play development and get chosen to play for other squads, would those games be in addition to their team game in house games or instead of? It would be in addition to. All right, so good question. All right, it wouldn't conflict with the regularly scheduled game. Okay, so likely for a boys, for example, boys play on Saturdays, girls play on Sundays. It would be flipped. Like, so if in the development center setting, boys will play on the Sundays, girls will play on the Saturdays, for example. Aside from the coaches, who would be the parents who have indicated interest in volunteering, i.e. team manager, be contacted by Burnaby FC? Yes, anyone that has indicated they're going to be volunteering for Burnaby FC will be getting contacted by the club, and depending on what you ticked off, be it team manager or coach or something else, they will be contacted by Burnaby FC. It just depends on what they've ticked off. But I guess what I really want to emphasize right now is, if you haven't ticked off the box to be a volunteer coach and you're able and willing to do so, contact myself or contact the club, and I want to make sure that that we can support you, before the season starts, and make sure that you're ready for it. Does extra development cost money? Yes, it does. It is an additional cost to your regular registration. Okay, and those details will be coming out along with the schedule of phase 1, September to December, phase 2, January to March, phase 3, April till June. Those costs and dates and times and locations will be coming out shortly. How will the assessments to separate excelling versus emerging every week? How will the assessments to separate excelling versus emerging every week? Again, as coaches, and again, I kind of emphasize that most kids will bounce back and forth between the two. But like there's a staff coach on location that will help with the process. But again, if I was, if I had, 12 kids, for example, and I'd say, listen, my top half are over here for this week, my other half are over here for this week, and let's play. Coach, you can do the same. But also, it's important to recognize again, we're all one club. We're all one club. We're all all one big team. So that conversation I would have with my colleague is like, if I have to tell him, listen, the three of my best players are not here this week. They all have the flu. This game might not be equal if we do it straight like that way. So then perhaps he's got my opponent has to pad the excelling field with a few more stronger players that might be on the emerging otherwise. The most important thing is the communication upon arrival with the staff coach and with the co-coaches. It has been going on for a number of years now at Cliff Avenue, and it goes pretty smoothly, to be honest. Once things get going, the first couple of weeks, maybe everyone's learning what to do, but it really does benefit the kids because the games are meaningful. There's not too many subs. Lots of kids are playing. So that's how the assessments work. Is there any invitational or performance development programs? Well, it's not by invitation in the sense that everyone has the ability to register for the development center. The invitation would be from those players that are in the development center to go play another club. That would be by invitation. Will there be a maximum number of players assigned per team? There was talk that some teams will have more than 12 players assigned to a team. Yeah, actually, like in the dream scenario, that we're looking at probably 16 kids per team, because again at the U8s and U9s, there's 10 kids playing at once, right? So that means that each field would have, if everyone shows up, would be 3 subs. Okay, so rarely does everyone show up, but still that's a manageable number of substitutes. Okay, if there's 2 fields, they're playing 5v5. If all 16 kids are my kids, if all 16 kids show up, 10 are playing. And then same thing with the U10s. Like if all 16 kids play, 14 kids are playing. There's one sub on each field, right? So we're looking at having kids play as much as possible, not come to soccer and have to do a full line change where you're only playing half the time. These are great questions, everyone, so keep them coming. How regular will games be with teams outside clubs? With the development center, it's something to be finalized, but I would certainly see probably once a month at least. But I mean, the dates have not been confirmed, but we'll be looking at probably at a minimum once a month. Will teams be based off of last year's fall teams? To a certain degree, yes. Just for that bit of familiarity for the U8, U9, U10s. But of course, I would probably say there's more of a core group. Again, if a reason why someone might not be on the same team is if there's other teams that are missing players, right? So we're trying to balance the teams out. But it absolutely our intention to try to keep the teams together as much as possible, at least in this first year with BFC. But again, like the intention is that we're all one big team. So come a match day, we're working together to deliver a good experience. Will team snap be provided by Bunny BFC? In the past, there were leagues parents had to contribute to the cost of team snap. Bunny BFC is providing team snap to everyone. So absolutely, it's a tool that the club is providing to parents. So you will not have to purchase Team Snap because the club is providing it. Are the kids ever going to be playing with the same team members? Yes, because as I said, like, so if I'm team 1, I'm playing against team 2, like like half, like I put my team in half, and one team's playing the other opponents, and on the other fields, these group of players are playing the team. So yes, they are playing with their teammates that they would practice with. When do we learn what days of the practice we practice? When do we learn what days of the week we practice? Again, that information will be coming out shortly. We hope it's certainly in the next week or two before the end of the month. We are still in discussion with the city of field allocations, and of course we are still waiting for more volunteer coaches to make themselves available so we can build more teams. But again, as soon as we have that information and the coaches identify where and when they want to practice, they'll be reaching out to the players to let them know when they can start crossing off the calendars. Is development program in addition to the regular season, or can you do one or the other? It is in addition to the regular season. It's in addition to the regular season. So they don't conflict. They don't conflict. What are the potential fields for games and practices? Well, all I can really say on that is that boys will play on Sundays, girls will play on boys will play on Saturdays, girls will play on Sundays. And then as far as the potential fields, yeah, it's still being determined with the city of Burnaby. And again, what we hope to happen is that, we'll have fields close by to where your neighborhood is, right? So it's hopefully there'll be some fields in the north, some fields in the south, there'll be some fields in central Burnaby, because we do want to keep people, as conveniently as possible close to their home. Question is, while I was registering my children, I noticed a new question about which quadrant are you in based on home address. How much will that factor in if we still want to play? And me as assistant coach with our team from last year, of which I know many are from different quadrants. Honestly, it won't factor in a lot because we're trying to keep people together. But for new kids that are just playing the sport for the first time, that's what we're going to use that information for. But again, we'll take last year's team, and that will essentially form the core of the team in the upcoming season. But we do want to have, we want to make it as easy as possible. So the information is being used more so for the new players. But again, hopefully that people that are returning coaches, for example, they still, they get to practice, someone that's close to their home as well. Is the development program the same as the academy? Yes, in the sense that it's paid staff coaches. So that's we don't use the word academy anymore. We use the development center phrase. Okay. Whereas academies, there's no standards to an academy. Like anyone can say I'm, soccer academy and have no certifications whatsoever. Whereas because we are licensed through the Canadian Soccer Association to call ourselves a development center, we have to meet the high standards of having nationally trained coaches and abide by scientifically backed methodologies to make sure that the kids are getting the best of the best. So we don't use the word academy. Will there be rules regarding kids that do not show up to practice in games without giving prior or any notice? Ultimately, I think that's definitely a conversation for coaches to have with the parents. But again, if it's a reoccurring issue, that information does get shared or should get shared with us for the following season. Because what we don't want to happen is a particular team to have, 3 or 4 players that are unreliable, right? And they're just not showing up to practice in games because that does affect the team. And so that, as far as a rule goes, you need to, we'll make sure that we communicate as a club to parents saying, hey, use Team Snap and make sure that you've signed up to be a part of this club. Make sure you're attending practice and games. And if they're not, you just, as a coach, reach out to them and say, what's going on here? But also at the same time, you'll be letting us know so we can take that information into consideration when forming the teams next season if they choose to sign up. I did check the box to volunteer to be a coach, but I haven't heard anything. When will you be reaching out to these volunteers to let them know about the coaching opportunities? Lauren, I will follow up to find out that information immediately, because you should have received a notification. So I will double check on that, okay? So I will just make a quick note. Excuse me, everyone.
It was U7, so I know this meeting isn't covering
That's
that
okay.
age, but
That's okay. Yeah, U7s.
for
Boys
my
or
younger
girls?
child.
Boys or
Boys.
girls? Boys. Okay. Lauren, I'll connect with you after. I'll connect with you
Sure.
after. Absolutely. Sounds good. And thank you for volunteering. Yeah, brilliant. For clarity, took the comment about staying with the same teams. For the Westburn Div 1 teams, would they stay together for this year? Well, I guess to be clear, there's no set divisions at U8, U9, or U10. Like, there's not a Division 1 team or Division 2 team or Division 3 team. So the team itself would stay together, but they wouldn't be referred to as Division 1 team. The team upon arrival at games, as I mentioned previously, is that what they would do is that, like, the stronger group would play in one field, and the less stronger group would play in the other field. So
just to add more detail to that,
yeah.
For Westburn right now, there is a Division 1 team. That's what they're called. I know that that's not going to be what it is moving forward, but those kids that are playing together, will they remain playing together as per the comment that was made earlier that you're going to try to keep those kids together?
Yeah, they would
the question.
Yeah, the group would stay together, and then again, like, depending on how many kids, I don't know how big that team is, but there might be some more players added to that team. So, and it obviously depends on how many kids register as well from that group.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. When will coaches, teams, managers, and volunteers hear from BFC? So is this kind of the similar comment to Lauren about there's been no notification yet from?
Yeah, and when I scroll down, a number of other people have now said, I also volunteered and haven't heard. I also volunteered and haven't heard. So I don't think it's a me thing. I think there's been an oversight there. Yeah.
Well, let me follow up to make sure that volunteers are getting connected based on if they've ticked a box in registration, then they should be getting notifications. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks everyone for letting me know. This is great information. Okay. When will the uniforms be available? They'll be coming in the coming weeks, but they'll be handed out more than likely before the Jamboree to the coaches, so that the coaches can hand them out at the Jamboree on September 9th. Well, U10 have 1 or 2 practices per week. They've got a team practice, and then the additional practice would be if they wanted to register for the development center. I volunteered, and I also not heard back. U9, very good. And like as per the previous comment, I will make sure that there's a message sent out to all of these people that have ticked the box to volunteer coach and haven't heard yet. But again, thank you for volunteering. With the increase of players and teams, will we play just in our quadrants, or will we be playing in other quadrants? If the Jamboree, all players in that age group. Okay, for first question, again, it would be our intention, and again, it's a bit of a crystal ball answer in the sense I don't know for certain, because if for example, if there was a 50-50 split of North Burnaby and South Burnaby, that we would want to have the teams in the north play in the north and the teams in the south play in the south, just make it easy. But there would be opportunities for them age group as those teams to play each other. So yeah, you wouldn't necessarily play the only within your quadrant. It would hopefully work out that you can certainly stay in your area of the city, so you don't have to do too much traveling. But there will be opportunities to play other groups as well. And then, is the Jamboree all players in that age group? Yes. Right. So again, the schedule is not confirmed yet, but for example, U8 boys 11 o'clock, and then all the U11 boys at the Jamboree would come and participate in the event. I also coached last year, and now during the spring, I've not head back yet as well. Okay, Rampy, I'm just repeating myself here, but thanks for letting me know. I will double check to see what that status is on BFC reaching out. Okay, at Westburn, the teams are mixed, boys and girls. This is for U7. Is it at U8, the boys and girls are divided, or is it unique to Burn BFC? Typically, the teams aren't mixed. It's boys on Saturdays, girls on Sundays, and they train with amongst themselves. If a girl wanted to play on a boys team at U8, then they could certainly reach out, and we might be able to accommodate. Absolutely, but the groups aren't mixed openly. Like it's boys playing Saturdays, girls playing Sundays, and they're within the team environment as well as one group. Would Burnaby FC have tournaments? At the moment, nothing is scheduled for these age groups, but that's not to say that might be something in the future. Okay, so more details to come on that for sure. If our child is playing upper year, will they be able to continue playing upper year? Again, I think if it's in the child's best interest, absolutely. And so what will happen is if any player registers and they get placed into their correct birth year and they're absolutely smashing it, then they'll obviously get moved up. That's the best. Yeah, absolutely. We do want players to be in an environment where it's in their best interest. Is there thoughts on one massive festival at the end of the year so the same age group have a potential to play everyone in the club? Yeah, absolutely, Mike. And again, like I do feel that like everyone will play with everyone within the club. It's just from a week to week basis. Like we will try to schedule groups together geographically just to help families out. But over the course of the season, yes, teams will be playing every team in the birth year for sure. Over the course of the season for sure. We'll just give it a couple minutes if anyone else. Here we go. Will all players play all positions, or will there be any chance to specialize at this age? During like the kids do get moved around a bit, and it's for positions because yeah, it's in their best interest to learn all the positions. Certainly when you get into the older age groups, the U11, U12s, they might spend a bit more time in one position or the other, and certainly at now it's U14 when they start playing 11-a-side is when they probably really start to specialize. But they'll still do a bit of rotating even at U11, U12, U13. So especially at the U8s, U9s, U10s, kids are still getting moved around a bit. How will players be placed on teams for next year? For the upcoming season, Dave, can you want to clarify? Are you referring to the September 2023, or are we referring to September 2024?
2023.
So for 2023, like the one that's coming up, for all intents and purposes, that if you played at one of the founding amalgamating clubs, you'll go back to that group. Couple factors being assuming that team's still viable, it's still got enough kids to form that team. So there might be some movement between groups, but we will be trying to keep as many kids together as possible that they played last year. So that information kind of is captured when you register. But if you're completely new to Burnaby, for example, you'll get placed into a group that needs players.
I guess my question stems from this. You've got different clubs with different structures from last year.
Yeah.
So as an example, Westburn having a Div 1, Div 2 team, my understanding is that Cliff did not have that. You've got other clubs as well. And then you're just going to keep those teams together. It just kind of seems like you're going to stick, you're going to have like a Div 1 team, a Div 2 team from last year, and then various mixed teams. It just seems pretty.
Well,
like,
again,
is that how we're going to do it?
Dave, you got to one thing to consider as well is that like just the sheer volume of the club now. So if that player pool, I mean, you'd have to tell me because I'm not entirely sure. Like, if you tell me the birth year that you're referring to and how many kids or how many teams were in that birth year, for example, with 2014s, 2015s.
The U8 moving into U9.
Okay. So for example, like how many teams were there for Westburn?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
Give or take 3.
Give or take 3.
Sorry, I'll cut in here. For U8, we had 1 Div 1 team and 2 Div 2 teams.
Okay, thank you. So give it approximately like 12, 24, 30, maybe approximately 36 kids. Whereas like we're forecasting like 100, 150, 160 kids for that birth year. So there'll be more than enough players that are of, the kids that are advanced, so to speak, to play against the 12 kids that were, earmarked as Division 1 players. So and again, I'm not too worried about it until I see what we're working with. But I'm not getting too hung up on a 7-year-old that was placed at Division 1 because so much can change in a summer, right? Like some kids might touch a ball every day of the week for the next 2 months, and someone might not touch a ball at all, right? So we'll know more once the season starts on where kids are, but certainly to get to your point, like the group that you were with last year will stay together until we get going.
Okay, so there's the possibility that there will be. I guess I'm just kind of curious if there's the possibility that there will be changes, rather than hearing that, oh yes, we are guaranteed to stay together. It's.
Well, again, the group will stay together
question,
absolutely.
Right?
Like on a practice night, for example, that group will stay together, no problem. But like on a match day, just like every group, like the team gets pulled in half. If it were a case of, and again, I'm working with numbers I'm unfamiliar with, but like if this particular team had 12 kids on it last year, I don't know if that's accurate or not. Like there are going to be 4 more kids added to that roster to make 16. And then they get split in half to play in the 2 fields. If, for example, this Westburn Division 1 team is, smashing the other team, then essentially like it's not any benefit for everybody. So like we'd move the kids around so that it's more competitive and enjoyable for everybody. I don't think anyone enjoys just 12-0 games or anything like that. But these players that the strongest players in the age group, as I've mentioned, like if they're attending the development center, then they'll likely get selected and invited to go play other clubs at that higher level as well.
No, that totally makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Can I request a change of group, because we live in South Burnaby and live in New Westminster actually. So we're going, last year we went to North Burnaby. Is there any way we can request to a different in South Burnaby area?
Absolutely. Like, yeah, just send a note to like info@burnabybfc.com, and we'll make sure you get placed on a team that will be training in South Burnaby. And that's part of the reason why we do those quadrants as well. But you can make that request as well via info@burnabybfc.com.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay, why are certain teams already guaranteed to play together next season, even though we have an amalgamation of 5 clubs which include different structure across? I think I might have answered that. It's from Dave still. Dave, are you okay with that as well, or why are certain teams already guaranteed to play together next year, even though we have an amalgamation of 5 clubs which include different structures across clubs? And again, part of the amalgamation process, everyone, is like when we bring everyone together, we will have to be fluid and flexible to a certain degree to make sure that it's the best experience for players. And that's the best answer I can give, is that we will make adjustments as we need to, but going into it, this is the parents' meeting's purpose, is that when you arrive at a match day, there's going to be 2 fields side by side, and the team that you practice with is going to be put in half, and they're going to play simultaneously, not side by side each other. So that the kids are playing more, and so that the games themselves are more close and competitive. Any goalkeeper clinics? Yes, there will be, and that information will be posted shortly as well. Okay. Can't have enough goalkeepers. It was not advertised as an early bird discount if you register now. I think some parents think there is no early bird registration, so they are waiting closer to the fall. Well, Mike, thanks for letting me know. I think the next time there's a blast out, we'll let everyone know that the price structure is going up on July 1st. So we'll make sure that parents get the message across, get that message. Will there any opportunity to play New West or South Burnaby? I'm aware that they have a strong desire to play a competitive Burnaby team. Yeah, absolutely. I'm in contact with New West and South Burnaby. So that would be one of the teams I would love to be able to. Those clubs are clubs would love to, have those development center games with, for sure. Did I miss the parent meeting? No, the U6 U7 one was at was early this evening, but it's getting sent out as well. But like, so you haven't missed anything in the sense that like you'll get the information. Can you say something about it? I'm not going to talk about U11 right now because it's going to be tomorrow. Tomorrow is the meeting for tomorrow. So I can send you a reminder what time that is. It's the same link though for the U11. How do we volunteer at a goalkeeper clinic? Do you know what, Mike? Touch base with me offline because we typically just have staff work in those clinics. But I'm sure we can make arrangements. So I know you're a goalkeeper. So yeah, let's touch base offline there. Sorry, late joining, if it was already answered, will there be an invite-only academy at the U10 age group? So the invitation only really is that when you register for development center, the players get put into groups that are of similar ability. So you get invited to the level that you should be playing at based on your performance. And then from an invitation perspective to go play the other clubs in the development center, yes, that is an invitation process. Where are the development practices going to be held? Still being confirmed, but there's going to be one or two scenarios really. It's either going to be in central Burnaby, or it's going to be in one in north or one in south. So we can help out people in that. For the U8s and U9s, well, I can tell you right now, will be at Scotiabank, so they'll actually be indoors for the U8s and U9s. Do coaches get the chance to enhance the coaching certifications to higher levels? Absolutely. Like any coach that wants to get higher education and coaching, just have to reach out to me directly, and I'll help support you in that process.
Kevin, sorry I missed that. What U8 and U9? What was going to be in Scotiabank?
The development center.
Oh, development center. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Is there an official assessment form that parents and coaches have access to more for a transition from U10 to U11? Yeah, there is. Coaches will be able to volunteer coaches provide feedback at the end of the season on particular players. So they've got a lot of contact time with players. So if someone is excelling in an ability, then they let us know. If someone doesn't show up, if like this particular player has terrible attendance, like that's information that the volunteer coaches let us know, because it does help. Next one here is my kid is U10 this fall. She is curious about the selections for Div 1, 2, and 3 come U11 are done. The placement at U11, okay, it's like a season-long assessment. So there's no like open tryouts. Like it's kind of like a dated thing. Like we assess kids over the course of the year. So as I mentioned, there's always going to be Burnaby BFC staff on location at games. They're watching players every single week. And then of course, when in the development center where the staff coaches are working with players, they're being assessed there every single session. So that's how players get placed at U11. Okay, it's a season-long assessment at U10. and where will the U10 development center be? It's still being confirmed. It's either going to be like at, could be at Burnaby Lake West, nice and central, or we'll offer 2 options, one in the north, one in the south. But these are the details that we're just still finalizing with the city on our access to fields. But great questions. So every team needs 2 coaches, as there will be each coaching half the team during the games. That is correct. We need 2 coaches per every team. 3 coaches is even better, which is a lot of teams at Cliff Avenue used to do. Was we'd have 3 volunteer coaches on the team just in case someone was missing for whatever reason. And that's why, reaching out to parents to make sure that they're volunteering. But again, for those of you who tick the box to volunteer, I'll make sure that we get the message, we connect so that we can get you guys on the upcoming online courses and the upcoming on-field courses. My pleasure, everyone. Well, it is just after 9 o'clock. Maybe just give another minute or 2. But as I mentioned, if you do think of a question, after the meeting's finished, feel free to reach out to me directly. It's kjulian, KJULIAN @burnabfc.com. And I'm happy to answer any other questions as well. And even if it's not today, maybe if it's next week, if you think of something regarding the U8-U10s, just don't hesitate to reach out. It's going to be a great season, everyone. U8-U10s, it's historic. Burnaby FC, one club city, in the sense that. Do you still need coaches for U10 girls? Absolutely. Yes, we do. U10 girls, absolutely. We have signed up for summer soccer camps through Westburn. Would we be better off to sign up through Burnaby FC if they offer? I wasn't aware that Westburn were holding summer camps, because just like Cliff Avenue, we're essentially wrapping up at the end of the month. But yeah, there are Burnaby FC summer camps. The dates are on the website. So yeah, absolutely. Okay, yeah, through the Whitecaps. Yeah, I mean, personal preference, but I mean, I'm going to promote the Burnaby FC one because I'll be the one that gets the pleasure to work with the kids. So, but the Whitecaps do a good show as well. I'm not going to say they don't. If the kids are playing, kids are playing during the summer, I'm happy. That means there's just lots of touches on the ball. Hey, everyone. Hey, guys. Thanks very much, everyone. Again, feel free to reach out to me if you do think of anything. Have a great night. We'll see you soon. Enjoy.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.